Hey folks, it is Brian M. Hauser here at Hawkblogger on Twitter and on Instagram, and get a few minutes out here before practice really gets going, and wanted to give you a report after we just did some press conferences and the locker room. Honestly, I don't want to make me the news, but I will just say it hit different being in there, asking questions in the auditorium for the press conferences on game week. Cameras all lined up. They're having a ton of trouble with audio, so expect there's going to be some issue with the Mike McDonald press conference audio-wise. But man, it felt special to be in there. It felt special to be able to ask questions of Coach McDonald, of DK Metcalf, and Tyrell Dodson, and then to go in and walk in the locker room and talk to these guys who are getting ready to play their first game of the year, and just kind of chop it up a little bit, pretty informal in there. And I think that part of the reason people are following this blog, following this podcast, is because you also want to get a little bit of a inside look at what's going on and how this works. And it's definitely a different vibe asking questions in that auditorium. And when you go in there versus, having a few of the press corps, it's, everyone's sitting down. You got row after row of people. You got 5 or 6 network cameras in there. You got a feed going to the NFL. And then the locker room, it's a kind of an odd experience. You walk in there and guys all just, getting ready for practice, changing, and there's, media kind of milling around, and you just approach somebody and say, hey, do you have a minute? And ask them if if they can talk to you. And so I talked to Brady Russell, I talked to Draymond Jones, I talked to Derek Hall, and it was great. I mean, I talked to Brady Russell about whether he's had any experience playing fullback in college and past experiences, and he said, yeah, he has, and for him it's not that much of a difference. I asked him about the Denver defense and what it's like to go up against, what he thinks it's going to be like to go up against them. He called it a dirty front, like not dirty in terms of they're cheap, but that they're pretty physical, and he's kind of looking forward to mixing it up. He's just a guy whose mentality I love. He loves the physical part of the game. He wants to be physical, and he's also super fast. Showed amazing hands in the preseason. Continued to be very high on Brady Russell and what he can contribute to this team. I see someone who is not enjoying the unskippable ads. I wish I could do something about that. I will just say, if you join YouTube Premium, you won't get any of those. So not telling you to do that, but that's what I've done, so I don't have to experience that. But I'm sorry for that experience. Anyway, talking about other guys, had a chance to speak with Draymond Jones, who we really haven't talked to all camp. He's super excited. He feels so ready to be out there. He feels great. He talked about that. I asked him, because he is listed as the rush end on the top of the depth chart as the starting rush end. And Mike McDonald has said that the rush end is the one that's going to be the primary pass rusher in the defense. I don't think anyone would have expected Draymond Jones to be the one in that position. So I asked him if he feels excited to get a chance to rush the passer more often. And he's like, well, not necessarily compared to, in my career, but compared to last year, yes. So I think he mentioned that he was excited to get that opportunity. He's excited to put that on tape, and he's excited to face his former team. He didn't want to give any, the locker room or what's the phrase? You know what I'm talking about. He didn't want to give any context there that would be a problem for the team. What is the frickin' phrase? I can't remember. Anyway, so we did meet with him yesterday. 1 second, folks. Rich. Sorry, this is real-time stuff. Am I still good out here, or do I need to go in? All right, can I go around the front? Is that all right? All right. Okay, sorry. We're trying to make sure. Do not break any rules here. So, all right.
I had nothing in writing.
He did not want. I'm going to go over here to the front here and hopefully make it a little bit easier to finish this. Sorry, I thought I had a little bit more time. Okay, so let's get back to Draymond Jones. Draymond Jones didn't want to give any locker room material for the Broncos, but he did say he feels some kind of way about playing his former team. He knows he's not the first guy to face his former team, but he's looking forward to kind of putting his best out there. And I think the other piece that Draymond talked about is he's got some familiarity with those offensive linemen for Denver, and he feels like he's got an advantage against anybody, is what he said, but it does help to kind of know some of those guys. In fact, he's gone up against Luke Wattenberg, who's the new center for the Broncos. He has some familiarity with how those guys play. So, I think that's going to be an interesting storyline and something that nobody's really talking about. Draymond Jones is not the top of anybody's mind, but I think is going to be an interesting one. I also talked to Derek Hall about the fact that, he'll probably get extended chances to play in this game and how he's feeling about that. He's super excited, and I asked him, kind of a challenge question. It was a really hard one to answer potentially, but he gave a great answer. I talked to him about his 1% foundation. If you don't know, he was given a 1% chance to live when he was a baby. He ended up beating those odds, and not only that, but becoming an NFL player. So I said, that was a 1% chance of happening. What's kind of the 1% vision you've got for where your career goes? Like, where is it in a few years where it's like 1% and you want that to be your next great accomplishment? And he said, it's hard to say, but, being in the top 10 in NFL history in sacks, wearing a gold jacket, those would be somewhere on that list. And that's not an easy question to answer. And I thought that was, cool of him to share that. Also talked about, how do you go about handling, I talked this about to Draymond as well. How do you handle a mobile quarterback? A guy like Bo Nix that likes to break the pocket, that likes to potentially use his legs to gain yards on the ground. And, they talked about rush angles. They talked about, making sure that they're aware of where the quarterback is. Draymond was funny. He was like, I miss the days of Phillip Rivers and Drew Brees and the guys that would just sit in the pocket. Those guys are definitely easier to get to. And, these mobile quarterbacks do bring an extra dimension. And the rushers who are working their tail off just to get around a guy, having it also be something that they have to be aware of to, potentially cut off their rush mid-rush and chase a guy in a totally different direction or down the field or close a gap or tackle him if he's coming near them. It's a lot. So I think that's something Bo Nix uniquely brings to this matchup. Not unique in the league, but, it's something about Bo Nix that is unique. And the other piece, as far as, talking to Mike McDonald, I think one of the more interesting answers I heard from Mike McDonald during his press conference was, I asked him, hey, it seemed like it took a few games for your Baltimore defense to, team to kind of adapt to your scheme. Do you feel like the Seahawks defense are in a better place than that Baltimore defense was? And I loved his answer because he said, one, I challenged the premise of the question. He doesn't necessarily feel that the team needed to adapt to his scheme. He talked about what I hoped he might say, which is he was new as a DC at that point for Baltimore, for the NFL. He's learned a lot. He learned a lot in those first 8 games where things didn't always go the right way. He's learned a lot for that whole season. He learned a lot in that offseason. He learned a lot in the next season. He's learned a lot along the way to where now everyone that's saying, hey, it's going to take a year or two for Baltimore to adjust, it's probably going to be the same in Seattle. That's not what Mike McDonald thinks. He sees this Seahawks defense being in a much different place, partially because he's in a much different place than he was initially as a defensive coordinator. So, you know, I had that feeling that he might feel that way, and I wanted to give the opportunity for him to, answer that question however he wanted to, and we'll see. I mean, game one, week one is always tough, no matter who you are, no matter how long you've played, how long you've coached. We'll just see, but I don't expect this defense to take 8 games to figure things out. We'll take a look. We'll learn more in a couple days. Other things from Mike McDonald that I think stood out were, he's excited about the crowd noise. And, I'm talking with some of the other folks around here about whether Lumen Field is going to be as packed and excited as it's been. Are Seahawks fans, at the same level of excitement as they've been in the past? Are people kind of in a wait and see mode? And I guess I interact with all you guys. I see people that are more excited than they've been in a long time. I'm certainly more excited than I've been in a long time. But the reality is not everyone's there. And you're seeing things like bus ads that are advertising single game tickets. And people say they do not remember seeing those kinds of things recently. Is the team having a harder time, selling seats? I don't know. I can't wait to be in my seats on Sunday. I know all of you are super excited about what's going on here, but it is an interesting question about whether people have really not gotten excited. And look, Dana O'Gorman on our show, she'll be on tonight, 6 o'clock, Real Hawk Talk. We've got Evan, Dana, and Nathan will be on tonight. We're going to do a four up tonight. Dana's taken a while, and she's still very, Pete Carroll, dyed-in-the-wool Pete Carroll person, who, I am too, but I think it's been much harder for Dana to get excited about this team and this coach and this season than it has been for me. I don't think Dana's alone. I think there's other people that are in that boat, and I'm really, really hoping that Sunday is a moment where people kind of fall back in love with this team. I'm just so excited to see what they have to offer. As far as other things from Mike McDonald's press conference, he talked about Sean Payton and the history he has. He talked about it's tried and true, his scheme. He talked about it with a lot of confidence, like he knows what Sean Payton likes to do. And I think that should give people a little bit of comfort that even though it's Bo Nix, Sean Payton's offense has been Sean Payton's offense, and Mike McDonald knows it and has studied it. So the chance that he is going to be able to prep for this team better than he would other offensive coordinators is real, because there's a lot of history, there's a lot of film, there's a lot of tendencies for how he likes to play offense. And whether it's Bo Nix doing it or someone else, I think Mike McDonald feels like he's got a pretty good idea of what's coming. Outside of that, we spoke to Tyrell Dodson, who was great. He carries a tennis ball around with him everywhere, and he talked about the fact he does that because he has ADHD, and it's kind of like a fidget thing for him where it helps him focus. And it's cool of him. I always think it's cool when people acknowledge any kind of challenges they go through and how they adapt to them, and I think it was cool that he shared that. He talked about the fact that even though this is the first time in his career he enters the season as a starter, he doesn't think about it that way. He says he's felt like he was going to be the starter entering week 1 every single year of his career. And so while technically it's different, he doesn't feel different. He talked a lot about Jerome Baker and the fact that Jerome Baker is a guy that is playing next to him, but has not been on the field as much during training camp, OTAs. And so they made a real point to get to know each other off the field. They're texting, they're harassing Tyrese Knight, telling him what snacks to get, and collaborating on what kind of challenges and hazing to do with Tyrese Knight. Nothing bad, just good fun. And I asked him, what's one thing you've learned about Jerome Baker in all that time? And he thought for a second and he said, he's really quiet. He doesn't say a lot, but he says a lot. And that was one piece. The other piece that he said was he's pretty quiet off the field, but on the field, he is he is talking all the time, and he plays angry. Those were his words. He plays angry. And he's like, there's times where I'm like, dude, just chill. It's gonna be all right. But he plays with anger. I think I liked hearing that personally. And he also acknowledged, he's like, hey, even though I said I've always thought about myself as a starter, this is my first year officially as the starter. And Jerome's been in the league for a while, and he started from Miami, and so I can lean on him. And I think that's underrated, that a lot of these defensive groups have a vet to lean on. The defensive line, you got Jaron Reed, you got Leonard Williams, you got Jonathan Hankins, so you got the young guys that can lean on. Uchenna Nwosu's on the edge group. You've got even Travis Gibson has been there for a while now, but you've got some of those guys. The secondary, you've got Rayshon Jenkins, you've got Julian Love. You've got some guys that have been around that other people can look to, and I think that's going to help this defense in general at every level. I think one of the things people don't realize about Tyrell Dodson is he's just such a physically violent tackler. What you saw in the Chargers game was just a taste. I think this guy is going to quickly be someone that Seahawks fans fall in love with as a run defender. There's questions about pass defense for him. We'll see. There's a lot of people that study film that'll tell you he wasn't asked to do that much in coverage for Buffalo last year. He'll certainly be asked to do more as a Mike linebacker in this defense. We'll see. We'll see. So that's something that is to monitor, but he was a really cool guy. It was the first time I was present for him speaking at a press conference, and I was impressed by what I heard. Otherwise, we also spoke to DK Metcalf, and I asked DK a few different questions. One of them was, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but a lot of people, especially receivers, they have all these elaborate celebrations when they score a touchdown, and they get really psyched for themselves and want to make sure everyone knows. DK is pretty quiet when he scores a touchdown, but when he blocks for somebody, when he runs a route that opens something up for Tyler or for JSN, he loses his mind, man. He gets so excited. I've seen it happen multiple times over multiple years. So I asked him, like, what is it about that he takes pride in? And he's just like, he just wants to win. He wants to score points, and he doesn't care if it's him or someone else. And he likes blocking. He likes the physical side of that. He likes, if he can run it as a decoy, whatever it takes. He wants to do that well. So that was cool. I also asked him because he said that he wants to be more of a leader this year. And so I was like, so what does a good leader look like to you? And his answer was insightful. I mean, he talked about Bobby and Russ being early in his career, kind of the prototype leader in his mind. And he talked about taking care of your own stuff so that you can make sure you're ready to take care of other people in the room, other people in the organization that need you. And I'll have to go back and listen to it again, but it was a good quality answer from DK. So good stuff there. I asked about, what it's like, the challenges and opportunities of being moved around more in this offense as a receiver, and that Ryan Grubb has him playing different positions and lining up in different spots. And he said the challenges are you have to learn so much more. You have to learn every position. You have to learn every route from those positions. There's just a lot more work. But he said the opportunities are the opponents are going to have a harder time covering him inside and Lockett and JSN outside, or finding him on the field. And he's excited about that. So I think that's an underreported, under-discussed part of what will be, I think a dynamic year for DK Metcalf. And we're going to see it starting on Sunday. So those are the big notes, I would say, as far as this Wednesday report. We will get the injury report after practice, probably this afternoon around 4 or 5. Tune in for Real Hawk Talk at 6 o'clock Pacific time tonight. Like I said, Evan, Dana, and Nathan will all be there along with me. We'll talk about the injury report. We will give our score predictions for the game. Looking forward to that. I know people are probably asking me questions or saying things in chat. I can't really see that well right now, so apologies if someone's asked something or done something. I assume there's always people donating memberships, so who's ever donated a membership, assuming that's happened, I just want to say thank you. I love it when people do that, and I appreciate that people are bringing in other people to the channel. If you haven't already, click like and subscribe. Please do that. We're a couple hundred subscribers short of 12,000. Let's get to 12,000 by Sunday, please. I'm a superstitious guy in that way. I would love to see that number tick up to 12. I think that would be fantastic luck. And I also just want to take a moment again to thank everybody for supporting the show. I know everyone's doing a million different things, or a million different places where you could spend your time, your money, your attention. And you guys are making this, an even better experience for me. You're opening up doors for me, and I'm going to always remember today. It was cool. It was so cool to be in there, and for everyone else in there, it's just another day. For me, it wasn't. It was a special day. It was a special chance to ask the questions I wanted to ask, to see these guys in this environment, and I'm going to try my best to keep that kind of innocence, I guess, as long as possible, and that wonder and joy about what's going on here, because this is a game, and I spent a lot of my career doing a job. I loved that job, and it treated me really well. This is different. This is a job, and I want to do it well, but I don't want it to ever be a job. I want it to be something that I just get to share my passion and my obsession with all of you, and we get to build a really great community together. And all these things that are happening wouldn't be happening without all of your support, and I genuinely appreciate it. So if you see me on Sunday around town, I'll probably be with Evan and Jeff. Please feel free to, stop us, say hello. Always happy to meet people. And this is, let's keep this as personal and person to person in real life as possible. So appreciate all that. All right, folks, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you again for your support. And if you haven't already, give the show a like and click subscribe. Take care, folks. I will be with you again in a few hours for Real Hawk Talk.